Hello friends, I'm Narendra Verma once again with you. As you know very well, we are dealing with the chapter number 3 in business studies for class 12 CBSE syllabus, that is business environment. And in today's session, we are going to cover the topic impact of government policy changes on business, right? So in last videos, we discussed about the new economic policy which was adopted by India in 1991. We discussed about the crisis of 1991, and now we are talking about that how this new economic policy, or we call them economic reforms. So how these economic reforms cast impact on business and industry, because these are the policy brought by the government. That is why the topic is impact of government policy changes on business, because earlier the government was following different policy, now it made change in the policy. Okay, so that is why we are going to see and observe the impact of this change on businesses, because since 1991 a lot of time has passed. Now we can observe the impact. Okay, so without wasting much time, let's start that. So this is our topic, impact of government policy changes, or we call it economic reforms on business. All right, so as we know very well that in new industrial policy, the main components were liberalization, privatization and globalization, and this model really impacted each and every enterprise, whether it is the private sector one or the public sector one, right? Because just because of the liberalization, so many foreign companies got the entry into the Indian market, and so many private sector industries also got chance to establish their units for the products which were earlier reserved by the public sector. All right, so this impact can be analyzed through some points. Okay, and in your book also the points are given, and but I have changed the sequence of these points because you can remember all these points in a proper way. So very first I just write down the all points, and then I'll discuss the code to remember it. Then one by one we will discuss on each and every term, right? So these are the 7 points of impact of government policy changes on business. Necessity for change, need for developing human resource, more demanding customers, market orientation, increasing competition, rapidly changing technological environment, and last, loss of budgetary support to public sector. Okay, maybe possible that in your book the same sequence is not given. Why I have chosen this sequence? Because I have made a code, right? So I just write down the code, then I'll discuss about it. So you can have a look. The code is Nana and Mama idealize Ram and Lakshman. I know that it's a bit funny. You know very well that all the time we make funny code. Okay, you'll have to imagine a kind of situation. There is your Nana ji as well as Mama ji, and both are idealizing Ram and Lakshman. Okay. So here this N stands for necessity for change, and this N stands for need for developing human resource. This M stands for more demanding customers. This again M stands for market orientation, and this I stands for increasing competition, and this R stands for rapidly changing technological environment, and this L stands for loss of budgetary support to public sector, right? So now let's understand all these points one by one. So the very first point is necessity for change, right? We'll have to understand, see, after these economic reform, means LPG model, okay, or we can call it the application of new industrial policy. So after these economic reforms, what happened? For every business there was a kind of need for change. Why? I tell you. See, earlier the policy was going on in India, okay, which was not having such a huge change. So in earlier environment, the business enterprises, what they were doing, whatever plans and policies they were making, these were stable. and were lasting for long period. Okay, they were not supposed to make changes in their plans and policy very rapidly. Okay, but since the economic reforms took place in Indian economy, then business houses have to make continuous changes for that. Okay, very rapidly the environment is changing. There are various forces in the market which keep on changing. Already we have discussed the dimensions of business environment. Okay, so very rapidly earlier also these forces were working, but were not working so fast in Indian economy as these are working now, right? That is why the slowdown of the economy was there earlier, but now the economy is moving at fast pace, right? Okay, so now the environment is changing very rapidly. That is why every enterprise has to make change in their plans and policy very rapidly so that it can survive in the market. So in that way we can say that after economic reforms, each and every enterprise working in India has realized that there is the need to make continuous changes in their products, services, way of production or operation or anything. Okay, only then they can remain in the market. Otherwise their competitors will leave them behind and he will get the opportunity. He will start extracting the resources. He will start getting the benefits. Okay, for the example, we can discuss about the all mobile phone companies. Okay, all the companies are there in the competition. Okay, and every time if you want to observe that not a month passes, then they just launch the new model, or maybe possible the company is taking 2 or 3 months and then they launch a new model with updated features and sophisticated technology, right? So whether you talk about Samsung or you talk about Vivo, Oppo or other mobile phone companies. Okay, why? Because the environment is changing very fast, and if they want to remain intact in the environment, if they want to survive in the market, then what they'll have to do, they'll have to keep updating themselves, keep making the changes. All right, so this economic reform, or we can say the government policy, has brought a change on the business industry. What? That they have created the need for every enterprise to change every time, right? Now let's move on to another point. So the another point is need for developing human resource, right? Okay, now each and every enterprise feels that there is a need to develop their human resource. I'll explain you in detail. Okay, earlier the competition was not so fast, so many industries were not working for the same product and services, but now these are there. Okay, now domestic as well as foreign companies are both competing with each other for a single product or service. Okay, so in this competitive era, the people who are working in the organization, they need to be very much committed and competent towards their work, right? They must be expert at handling the things. Okay, so for that training is must. That is why in every business organization there is the separate department made by the name of human resource department, and this particular department takes care of training and development of the employees since beginning, before recruiting them as well as after their recruitment. Okay, on the job training or off the job training, both carry on. Okay, in the staffing chapter you will be studying that all. Okay, so just because of these economic reforms which were brought in India in 1991, okay, what has happened? All the business enterprises have felt that they need to develop and train their employees, right? So that they means the organizations can survive in the market for the long run. Okay, otherwise what will happen? Because this is the era of technology. Technologies are coming very fast. Okay, and if the human resource which is working in the organization that is familiar with the technology, only then it can lead the organization towards success. Otherwise what will happen? The wastage of the resources and the confusion, and the organization will not be getting its target all the time, right? So this is the again important point, that economic reform has made every business enterprise working in India feel the need to develop and train their human resources as per the requirement. Okay. Now let's move on to another point. So the next point is more demanding customers. We need to understand this point very minutely. Earlier, actually, what was happening? Earlier, the customers did not have much choice. Whatever was available, they were getting it and consuming it. But in this competitive world, they are having very wide area of choice, right? If one business house is unable to fulfill their needs, then they move to another one very fast. Very frequently the consumer keep on shifting, right? Okay, so that is what is happening in this business environment of India after adopting the new economic policy. Okay, because now various companies, firms, enterprises, whatever you want to name them, they are working for a single product. Okay, just because of that, the consumer has become well informed and he has become more demanding. Now he sees that if he is getting 5 enterprises, then who fulfills my needs most, right? Who satisfies me the most? Okay, and the consumer goes to him, right? Okay, so if we see from the eyes of the business enterprise, then the consumer has become more demanding in comparison to earlier time before adoption of the new industrial policy, right? Because consumer is the king. Okay, very often you must have heard this proverb, consumer is the king. Consumer is the king means that all the enterprises will have to listen to customer. Okay, if they do not listen to their customer, then they cannot satisfy them and they cannot get the business from there. Okay, because now the customer has various choices. Okay, you if the consumer is demanding, you will have to fulfill his demands. Okay, you have no other choice but to fulfill their demands. So only single option you have, just fulfill the demands of the customer. As they have become more demanding, doesn't make much difference. But why consumers have become more demanding? Just because of the LPG model. Okay, for that I just give you one example. Let's take the example of Dabur Chyawanprash. Earlier the Dabur Chyawanprash was available only a single flavor, that was the regular one. Still it is being sold. Okay, but so many kids were not liking the taste of that. They wanted that in different flavors. Okay, so the demands were there because other competitors of Chyawanprash were giving them those flavors. That is why Dabur also had to do the same. Okay, they just brought various variants of the Chyawanprash, mango or other flavors. Okay, just because of the demands of the customer. So the customer has become more demanding. You can observe in other examples also. Okay, because if you want to buy anything, then you have various demand. If you want to buy mobile, then you want that whatever is your requirement, that should be fulfilled. If one phone, whichever company it belongs to, doesn't make much difference for you, but that should be affordable to you. Okay, good camera should be there, music quality should be fantastic, selfie camera has to be awesome. So all these quality you want, and good RAM as well you want. Okay, picture clarity. So these many things if you get in any phone, whichever company it belongs to, doesn't make much difference, you just buy that. Okay, you do not see that whether it is Chinese company, Indian company, German company, American company, doesn't make much difference. I can afford it, I will get it, because now you have become demanding. Okay, you have become more demanding in comparison to earlier era, right? Now let's move on to another point. So the next point is market orientation. Okay, let's understand it in detail. Earlier, before adoption of new economic policy in India, what was happening? The industries were working on production oriented approach. Let's see here. So what was that production oriented approach? Means very first the companies were producing the items and then they were going to the market for selling them, right? That was happening earlier, because earlier there was lack of industries, so whatever was being produced, it was being sold out. Okay, because very few industries were producing the items. So if being a consumer, if you are getting it by any brand, that is good for you, right? Okay, that is why you must have heard still people call toothpaste a Colgate, because only Colgate was available at that point of time. That was a single brand, so that became very much popular. Okay, still it is being sold out, but I'm just talking about that. So right now they have various options, but earlier the options were not there. One company produced something and the customers had to buy those things because they did not have the choice. So earlier, what was the system? Companies were following the production oriented approach, but after adopting new industrial policy, okay, what has changed? The industries have to make changes. They have to adopt market oriented approach. And what is the market oriented approach? First they'll have to study and analyze the market in which they are going to sell their products, right? And after doing the analysis from all the aspect, what they do, they produce the product. And when they produce the product, then only they go to the particular market for selling their product. Okay, going to the particular market means, say for example, if somebody is going to produce toys for kids, then it has to observe the particular market of the kids, that what the particular kids like. Okay, maybe possible the kids of America are demanding different toys than the kids of India. Okay, so if they are going to kids in India, they'll have to observe, study the Indian market regarding that. Okay, and after doing the analysis, they'll have to sell the product in Indian market. Okay, so if they follow this approach, it means they have become market oriented. They are studying and doing the analysis of the market, and then they are producing the product and bringing it to the market for selling, and the product is being sold out as well. Because every organization is in the run of satisfying the consumer, and the consumer can be satisfied only when his all demands you are fulfilling. So until unless the organization knows what the consumer demands, it cannot be fulfilled. His demand cannot be fulfilled. Okay, so that is why very first, as per the market, the enterprise has to do the analysis, and after that they manufacture the product and then they sell it. Okay, so this change has also come just because of the new economic policy. Understood the point? Okay, for that I would like to give the example of the cars. Okay, there are so many foreign companies. I'm not talking about the Indian companies, I'm talking about the foreign companies. Okay, so there are various foreign companies, German companies, Scottish company. Okay, so in their countries, they are producing the cars as per the standards required by their government. Okay, and in India, when they come and start doing the production for the car, then they produce the car as per the standards set by the Indian government. Okay, another thing, they also observe that what the Indian consumer want. Okay, what the Indian car buying person wants in his car. Okay, according to that, they start making and adding and doing the modification into their product, and then they bring it to market. Okay, and just because of that, the cars are being sold out in the market. Okay, so just remember here, only those foreign cars are being sold in India which are fulfilling more demands of the Indian market. Indian market means which consists of Indian consumers. Okay, so only that car is being sold more. Fine. So there can be various aspects. Okay, so it is the matter of detailed discussion. One aspect is the price, another is the technology, then the mileage. So many other things are there. Fine. So I'm just giving you a brief example for that. Okay, so market orientation has entered India. Okay, if any enterprise is working in India, it has to adopt the market oriented approach, and this change has come after adopting the new economic policy. Now let's move on to another point. So the next point is increasing competition. Obviously, in new industrial policy, liberalization happened, and in liberalization, delicensing took place. Globalization happened, and in globalization, so many foreign companies were given the entry to come into India and set up their businesses and do manufacturing and start selling their products, right? Okay, so the foreign companies which have entered India because of the liberalization and globalization, okay, they have given competition to Indian domestic industry, right? Okay, and if we talk about India only, so within India also the competition increased. How? Because the privatization gave chances to various people who now can enter into businesses. Okay, so if earlier there were 2 or 3 industries for a single product, now there are 30 or 35 industries within India itself, right? Okay, and if you add the foreign companies also, so a lot of competition has been created just because of that liberalization, privatization and globalization. Because earlier what happened, we just understood in the new economic policy also that what happened, there was the reduction in the role of public sector. Earlier the industries which were reserved for public sector, now it has been open for private sector. So now private sector is doing business in that also. Now everybody is free to do that, nobody needs license for those things, right? Okay, so all this has given rise to competition has increased in the market. Okay, so this new economic policy or these all economic reforms have impacted on the businesses in the way of bringing the competition. A lot of competition has come. Okay, if we talk about the competition, that especially in the field of service sector, whether it is telecommunication, airlines, banking, insurance, etc., or any kind of services, okay, if you see that a lot of competition has come. Earlier these industries did not exist at all, but now you see that there are various competitors, whether these are the Indian companies or the foreign companies. So competition has increased, right? Okay, and for that, if you want to talk about the example, then you can take the example of any product. If you talk about the time before adoption of new economic policy, that there were very few companies which were producing pen. I'm talking about the pen with what you write. Okay, but if you talk about now, then you will get thousands or lakhs of companies working in this, even in India, right? So that is because of the increasing in competition. Now competition has increased. Now let's move on to another point. So the next point is rapidly changing technological environment. Okay, so after new economic policy, what has happened? We see that there are a lot of changes in the technology. Technology is improving day by day. Okay, and after adopting new economic policy, we see in the business environment that lot of technologies are improving day by day, right? Okay, and was a result of new economic policy, competition increased, and this competition gave rise to technology as well. Now what is happening, use of advanced technology gives benefit to each and every enterprise. It improves their performance, it provides them new market share. Okay, it helps them to increase that. Okay, and it improves their machinery, processes, operation, and it gives them a special competitive edge. Okay, it moves them ahead from their competitors. Okay, that is why all the organization, whether it is small or big, they all are running to adopt the new and latest technology so that they can get the whole market share and get the entire benefit. Okay, because everybody wants to remain ahead in the race. Okay, so rapidly changing technological environment is the result of what? That is the result of economic reforms adopted in 1991, right? But we have to understand that small organizations really fail to adopt the latest technology. Why? Just because of the shortage of the fund, but they also try their level best, but the big business houses really take more advantage of that. Okay, and for that there are various examples. If you see that, you can observe in any product, the company which is adopting the latest technology and giving the most sophisticated feature, only that is leading. For electronic gadgets, you can talk about Apple. Why Apple is leading? Because it is giving the sophisticated technology and the latest technology. Okay, when we talk of Apple, then we are talking about the Apple in Indian market. Okay, because in India also its market share has increased after 1991. Okay, so that is what, just because of the economic reforms, rapidly changing technological environment has been created around all the business enterprises, and they all are there in a kind of race to adopt the latest technology so that they can be there ahead from their competitors. Okay, so now let's move on to another point. So the last point for this topic is loss of budgetary support to the public sector. Okay, we already understood that in liberalization, privatization and globalization, means in new industrial policy, what happened? The role of public sector decreased. Okay, so when role of public sector decreased, then government also reduced giving financial support to public sector. Okay, because now private sector has taken the command in their hand of various products. Now they are satisfying the needs of the consumer, so now the government does not depend more on public sector undertakings. Okay, so it has reduced the financial support to public sector undertaking, and now it is a time for the public sector undertaking also. They have also realized that now they need to improve their performances by adopting the expert managerial system, or adopting the latest technology, or having the proper analysis of the business environment, or whatever they do. But they'll have to improve their performance if they really want to grow in this market, and if they really want to stay in this market. Okay, and for that they'll have to generate their own funds, right? Government is not going to take their responsibility forever. Government has reduced their budgetary support, because now government is getting more revenue from private sector. That is why it is all happening. So it has taken its hand back from the public sector undertaking. Now public sector undertakings have two options: whether you improve on the basis of your performance by adopting or making changes in your working style, or you just give your unit to private sector. Okay, so what is happening in actual? The PSUs are experiencing the loss in their budgetary support from the side of the government, and that is also the result of the new industrial policy. Okay, so, and for this example you can see that after that few PSUs have improved. Okay, and if you really want to see that what funds they were earlier getting and what they are getting right now, you can go to their websites and check it out. Okay, check it and you can come to know. Okay, so it was all about the points of impact of government policy changes on businesses. Okay, so the question may come like asking you that what is the impact of economic reforms on business and industries. Okay, or it may come like what is the impact of government policy changes on business and industry. Okay, the question can be then either form. There are various case studies, you can solve them. So this is all for today's topic. Very soon I'll be meeting you in the another video. Till then, bye bye, thank you. you.